Welcome to Notes from the Underground with your host, Deborah Jane East, and commentaries by myself, Derek Tyler. Nothing is really as it seems these days. In order to get to the bottom line, you have to go underground, where men and women search for answers, risking their lives to bring you the truth.
Hello everyone, this is Deborah Jane East, and I am here for Notes from the Underground. I have a wonderful friend as my guest this evening, and when I first started doing research in UFOs and paranormal, there were several guests that stood out in my mind that have stood the test of time. You know, some people, you interview them who you always remember the work that they've done and that you feel a bond with. And when I first met Derek Savory and his wonderful dog, Blue, I just knew that we were going to have a friendship for a long time because he was so warm and friendly, and he had such good energy about him and such a heart to help people. And he is on my show tonight with his lovely new guest, and her name is Penny. So they're both here with me tonight. Derek, I want to say it's good to have you on the show, you and Penny, and could you tell us just a little bit about what's been going on with you, and tell us about your new friend.
A new woman in my life, and her name is Penny Rossiter. She's a medium, and also she's a Reiki master, and I think there's probably a few other things she's good at as well. She's turned my life round. I'm a UFO guy, Penny's a medium, but we work well together. We come at this, she's taught me a lot, and over the last sort of year since we've been together, it's made me think about things. So,
well, I am so glad to hear that, because behind every good man, there's a good woman. You can't be in this field without some kind of support, can you, Derek?
You can't. And I've got the right woman at last supporting me.
That's wonderful. Penny, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Deborah.
I'm so glad to have you here, and I'll let you tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in a family of 6, and I was the youngest, and I always felt when I was little, I was so different from the rest of my family, and I was born with that faith and that light being, and I knew I came into this world to just to teach by being, you know, and I've always been lucky to keep in that light, and I've not felt no darkness around me, because I've always felt I protect myself every day, and I learned the art of detachment and just stay in that passion of that faith in the universe. And I know my faith has got me through all my life of that believing, and it's been like quite a journey of being alone, but not felt alone, because I've always believed in my guides and guardian angels, and I've always loved healing as a child, and I've always loved bringing the two worlds together and comforting people and bringing their loved ones through in that, and that's my passion of life, and allowing to surrender to that universe energy, and also allowing people to grow in their own right rather than changing them to suit themselves.
Well, I tell you why, you are just a perfect match for Derek Savory. He is such a gentle, kind soul, and that's what he's always tried to do. And for my listeners out there that don't know, Derek has took many people on tours of Rendlesham for us and took them to hot spots, and he hasn't shied down from things that were a little bit creepy and weird, because Derek has got some really fascinating images, hasn't he, Penny?
Yes, and I've seen them all, and like it's been quite expensive to see all those, because I've never experienced anything like that, you know. Because I mean, I go through different dimensions in each of my daily life anyway, and I believe we are all in one dimension of this universe, and we are all light beings, and we are all part of the planet, you know. And like I like, even at night in sleep, you go on to another dimension, and I know straight away that I get taken away and do universal work in the night, and I know in the morning when I've been somewhere. But with Derek, you know, he's got such a good heart. He just gives it all away, you know.
He does.
And he just does it so freely because he just loves sharing so much, and, he doesn't charge. And to him, it's just sharing his knowledge. And he's so well respected and loved, and that doesn't matter where we go in the conferences, he just gives with a heart, and everyone's so pleased to see him, and that's really good.
They are.
And I'm going to, the different experience with Derek. It's like when we went up to Yorkshire, he took me with him, and I met Paul Sinclair, and it was a really lovely experience. And, where he took us, I didn't feel, especially where that MOD place was, it was quite eerie. And I felt the same, that he should be well protected and not go on his own, because I think, why would you put yourself at risk?
Exactly.
Like and there's no point.
No point. And Paul Sinclair, I just have to jump in here. I love Paul Sinclair. He is my best bud. He's one of my foremost researchers over there. I've interviewed him a few times. Him and his wife Mary are what we say in the United States as good people. I mean, have you ever met such a kind and caring family as Paul Sinclair and his wife Mary?
No, they were amazing. They made us so welcome, and his talk at the conference was awesome. That really, really was. He was so knowledgeable, and he really do so much research. He doesn't stop every day, and he's awesome. And his wife was so kind to us. She made us dinner, we went round every day to sit in circle with them, and that's wonderful. They just opened up their whole house to us, and they were so kind.
They are.
Really, really fun.
And Paul really, I call him the Sherlock Holmes of the UK because he leaves no stone unturned. He gets up at 4 or 5:30 in the morning and goes out to take photographs and will stay all night in locations. And because of his dedication, he has captured some of the best UFO footage that I've ever seen. And not just that, he has cameras all around his house. And he is the first researcher I have ever seen that has captured images from his webcam on the inside of his house. One evening he saw something out of the corner of his eye, and it was just like a flash of light, and his webcam turned on. He can tell it makes, I guess, a little sound or something. And he captured images in the span of 3 seconds of his film that was a light energy being. It took several images so quickly. That's how fast this thing moved. And as far as I know, no other researcher has accomplished that. So I know you must have had a great time, both of y'all, hanging out with him, and I'm just so envious. I tell Paul, I said, someday we're going to all meet, because he's best friends with my fiance, Derek Tyler, and we just can't say enough good things about you guys over there in the UK, so that's why I'm just thrilled to death to be doing this interview. Let's go back to Derek Savory. Since you had your experience, Derek, did you find out anything more about what happened to you when you were attacked in your home and basically knocked unconscious by something unknown?
Yes, I did. After it happened, a medium seen for ages contacted. She said, "Has something happened to you?" And I said, "Yes, I had a fall." And she said, "Derek, it wasn't a fall, it was a psychic attack. I've got a message for you." What's the message? Let me think a minute. I get a bit emotional when I think about it.
I can understand. It was a horrific event.
She said, "You've broken the rules." And that had to happen. Since then, I've thought about it and I spoke to loads of different mediums. I don't think I was supposed to get as hurt as I did. It sounds ridiculous, really, because I really did get hurt. I think it was a warning shot for me, and I've sailed close to the wind a few times at Rendlesham, and I think I pushed me back a little bit too far, hence I got hurt. I mean, what has been described to me was two beings that attacked me. I've actually got pictures of them now, not from that night, but I've got pictures of what another medium described. I've actually got pictures frightening. Large heads and tails. Derek Tyler would love it if you see the pictures of them, because they're some type of reptilian. But I took a hiding that frightened me. Well, you know, I spoke to you. I got her. I was frightened me, and the only thing that changed me, has brought me out of things, is I asked the universe for help, and asked for someone to come into my life to help me. And I asked a specific person, which was a possibility really. And then I've gone to a medium event, and Penny's walked past at this event, and I knew Penny, but not to speak to her. So she's walked past. I felt this really strange energy as she walked past. I thought, I felt that. And I said to Brenda Butler, was next to me actually. I said, Brenda, did you feel that? There's like a strange energy of her. I said, I want to see if I can get near her again and see if I can feel this energy, because I've never felt this before. And unfortunately, Penny and a group of people were going into a little side room where there was a Buddhist event going on. And Brenda said, oh, you never get in here. Look, there's people piling, there won't be anywhere to sit. When I walked in, there was only one chair spare, and it was next to Penny. So I knew then there was something special here, you know. And I sat next to her and I could feel her energies. And I thought, yeah, there's something strange. I still didn't realise what it was.
You didn't know what hit you, did you, Derek?
I didn't. No, this is seriously, I've never had this before. So, a little bit under false pretences, really. I invited Penny, as she's a medium, a respected medium, if she'd like to come to the house and do some readings for a few of us. So, she agreed. She came to the house like the following week. I was the first one to have a reading, and Penny gave me a reading, and she described my stepdad, my real dad, a friend of mine that I spoke to on your show, actually, Kevin Darkstrom, who died a few years ago, who's come through at various times through channeling. He'd also come through to Joe Game, who's sitting next to me, but Project Oric as well, which is one of the reasons it's brought us together. She told me all this stuff, and then one of the things she told me was, she said, well, you've got an animal guy that's a bear, like a grizzly bear. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but fair enough, I'll go with it. Everything else has been right. When she'd finished giving everybody the readings, then I showed Penny what we do in the initial forest with the pictures. And one picture I sent you, and you clearly see what she's saying. There is a spirit guide, my animal spirit guide, in the picture. There's a bear.
I saw it with my own eyes. It's true. I'll post it later with the interview.
Well, there's the bear in the picture. So now I question myself and think, well, there's all these ETs in the picture, and there's the bear, the spirit guide, in the picture. So now I question, how many things do we see and photograph that are actually our guides? Things that we think, say, are ghosts or paranormal activity, are actually our guides, or guardians, if you like, supposed to us, protecting us. Had it not been for that one picture, I mean, that just blew me away, because there it is, there's the bear, and there's Penny telling me that I've got an animal like a bear, and the first picture I show you, there's the bear in the picture. And I might add it's in a few other pictures as well the bear shows up in. That's just one picture I sent you, so you can see that was the first one. And when I go through the pictures I've taken, there's the bear. In pictures, when other people have taken, the bear's not there, it's just me. So I don't know how many other things are animal guides.
Well, we all need protection, and you certainly needed protection during that encounter of your abduction. Do you just want to tell everybody just a couple of the different figures that you saw in the forest? Because that was really a frightening experience.
Yeah, in October the 1st, 2012, I went to Rendlesham Forest with my son and my brother. They'd never been there before. I took them to the forest, and basically I was going to show them where the UFO hotspots were, where the UFO landings had taken place. We got there at 7:30 in the evening, only little car in the car park. When we got out of the car, we met up with somebody who was walking down the road talking to us. The owls started kicking off. I've never heard so many owls in my entire life in one place. It was like every owl in the UK descended on Rendlesham Forest. So we was walking along talking to our friends, so we know the times are right. We've got all things to say who was there. When we got down to this My friend who was there, he said, Derek, I'll leave you three alone and let you carry on. We walked up this pathway, which takes about 45 minutes, heading to a place known as Capel Green, which is where the UFO landings have supposedly taken place. We got up to the last little crossroads in the forest, and the temperature dropped to like below zero, I mean freezing. And my brother said, Del, I can't breathe. And I looked round to help him, and then my son was in between me and him, and my son was standing there staring at these beings appeared. These we call them shadow soldiers, and they were soldiers. And there's about 10 or 12 of these soldiers lined up to the left of us. And I'm staring at them thinking, what's going on? And then I've looked round to the other side, these little monks appeared. So probably about 4 or 5 of these little monks, about 4 foot tall. And it's like looking at a film. I'm thinking, what am I looking at here? And then my son said, Daddy, look. And a giant appeared in front of us, blocking our pathway. And this thing was well over 10 foot tall. It was ginormous. And basically, we got escorted out of Rendlesham Forest. It took about 45 minutes to walk down this track. And these things escorted us all the way out of the forest. As soon as we stepped onto the road, the shadow soldiers, the monks, the giant vanished. We hurried up to the car park, which was about 5 minutes up the road, opened the car doors, lit a cigarette up shaking, and just when you think it's all over, then my son said, they're behind you. And there's these little tiny silvery beings were in front of us. And we were staring at them. They're only about 1 foot tall. And the immediate feeling that came to me was loving feeling and protection. It was like they were checking to see we was okay. And basically, we were just couldn't believe what we were seeing. It was a standoff. We was staring at them, and they were staring at us. But it was like such a loving feeling, a bit like when a dog looks at you with his loving eyes. That's what it was like. There was, you know what I mean? It's like they were checking it was okay. Then the ground started to shake, like something passed underground, like an underground train or something. At which point we jumped in my car, we roared out the forest. Then my brother says, Del, as soon as you can, pull over. I thought he wanted to be sick because the shock just happened. So I pulled over. He said, not here, just get us right at the forest. All right. So I drove up the road, got us out of the forest onto the main road, pulled over, because I didn't want to be sick in my car. He said, I don't want to be sick, Del. And I stopped the car, and he, under his jacket, rolled up his shirt, and he had blood coming down from each shoulder. Something had got him in the forest. At the point when he was in the forest, he said he couldn't breathe. Something had got hold of him, and there was bleeding on each shoulder blade. There's some school of thought that he got an alien implant. I can't say either way, but I do think he has got an alien implant from that, whatever happened. But I now believe that these shadow soldiers and these monks that appeared are guides coming through to protect us. Me and my son never got hurt, yet my brother did. We got to his wounds, we drove back to my house, we walked in the door, and the time wasn't right. It said 5 to 10 on the clock. There's no way we could have gone to where we went, all this happened, and get home at 5 to 10 in the evening. The time just didn't match up. It was like we gained a good hour or 2 hours. My boy ran in and said, Dad, I'm going to look up demons and giants. And he opened up his laptop, and something took over it. It actually came up before he pushed any buttons, demons and giants, and something was trying to communicate. I said to Matthew, just shut it down. So he shut the computer down. I've made us a coffee. We sat there discussing what had happened. Took some photographs of my brother's wounds, you know. And coming back 2 o'clock in the morning, my father said, right, Del, I don't know what's happened tonight, but I'm going home. I said, when are you going home? We live 7 hours drive from here, you know. He said, Del, I'm going home. And he literally got in his car and drove home and didn't speak to me or my son for over a year. That was a shock, over a year.
Wow. Didn't you say that since he had that encounter too, his psychic abilities increased?
They have, a lot. He's always been very sort of psychic. You he picks up and he's seen stuff, but now things have took to another level, I think. He started coming down the forest quite a lot. He comes down to here. He's met my girlfriend Penny. In fact, we spent a week with him a couple of months back. Hopefully, if he spends a bit more time with Penny, he'll learn more medium stuff. He is very psychic though, but he's totally changed to what he was. I mean, I still can't understand why he got hurt and me and my son didn't get hurt. We all stood there, we all see the same thing. Had I been on my own that night, I'd say I was having a breakdown. I would honestly say I've had a breakdown. What I've just seen isn't real. But there were three of us, and all three of us see the same things. So obviously it did happen,
And it was missing time as well, wasn't it?
Well, I think it was gain time more than anything, because I'd say we actually gained an hour and a half.
Wow.
Rather than lose time, because we looked at the time wasn't right. There's no way we could have done what we've done. So I'd say we'd possibly gained time. But what I thought happened, and I've spent years looking into this, and I still am really, I thought a portal or a vortex had opened up, and the giant of the shadow soldiers that had either come through the portal or were stopping us from entering the portal. That's what I thought. Since I've now spent a lot of time with mediums, I'm thinking that the shadow soldiers and the monks probably come through as protection for us. They're actually trying to protect us. Whatever the other thing was that got hold of me, I think wasn't good. And I think he may have had an implant. There was more that happened that we didn't know happened. I mean, I think he did get an implant. I think there was ETs put it involved. But just quickly tell you this, I've got Joe Gay from Project Oric here. A couple of years after that, I was in the forest with Joe Gay, and we had something happen, and Brenda Butler took a picture of me and Joe, and there was a giant appeared either side in the picture, and these two giants, one either side of us, 11.5 foot tall. We
Wow.
could work out the exact size because I'm 5 foot nothing, Joe's 6'2", and we was able to work out the height of these giants, and they appeared in the picture. So these things are there, whether or not they're guides or whether or not they're actually ETs or what, I don't know. But my way of thinking now is a lot of this is guides coming through to protect us, or animal guides or animal guardians, ET guardians. I now think differently to what I did.
Well, Penny, could I ask your opinion? Do you think that Derek encountered a portal of some kind? Because I've heard other researchers say that they think there's portals in Rendlesham Forest.
Yeah, and I feel that the things they saw came through a different dimension and were there. And I think there was good and dark at the same time, okay? And unfortunately, Andrew, his brother, he's quite a very sensitive energy compared to Derek at that time. Though Derek's very sensitive, but Andrew's a different energy to Derek, and I feel that he caught the dark energy there. Where Derek, he's got a whole protection of light beings around him, and I think he was lucky to escape that incident.
I think you really hit the nail on the head, Penny, because I know that sometimes myself I tend to pick up dark energies because I've dealt with them a whole lot. I have a mentorship with Naomi Swan, who is very, very telepathic, and she is probably one of the best mediums, or whatever you want to call her, over here in the United States, and I've learned quite a bit from her. But these dark energies come across as a heaviness for me in the air, and it's like, have you ever been outside and you just feel like someone's watching you and you turn around, because you can feel something? That's how it is when it enters the room. You feel that darkness, that heaviness. Sometimes it may take you a while to know what it is, but some people, like yourself and, me, Naomi, and other mediums, they can pick up on to this. And it hangs like a dark cloud for me until I can hear or see in my mind's eye, whatever you want to call it, get a hint of what it is. And so I think that's a great analogy of Derek's experience.
Because another incident, I mean, I was very lucky to spend a whole year with a beautiful solstice of mine. She came over from America, from Australia, and she opened up a healing centre in Felixstowe, where we live. And she was running it for a year, and then she got attacked by 2 agency guys, because she's very much worked with energies, and her guide is an alien with a beautiful blue light, and we've worked a lot together, and our energies just blend so much. But that night she, because they wanted her to close the shop down because too many people were coming in, getting drawn to her, and these 2 agency guys attacked her, like Derek got attacked, and she felt like that night they attacked her, she was paralysed all night, and they were like drilling holes in her and doing all these operations. And it, like, from that day, she couldn't get out of that shop quick enough, you know. And so she's closed her business, sadly enough, and she wants to, because she's from, she's Russian, you know, she speaks Russian, she's from around that area, but her favourite place in the world, Australia, where she went over to do a lot of her work. But she's an amazing healer, and she worked with fantastic dimensions, and she's so knowledgeable, like Derek, you know. But that really did scare her too, and she described everything to me. Yeah, and her whole life has changed for a while she got over again of what happened to her.
Well, what are the manifestations when you feel something come into the room? Do you smell things sometimes? Does the air change temperature? What are the things that clue you in that somebody else is in the room?
Well, I just feel them, you know. I just sense, and I can just turn quickly and know someone's there. And like, you know, I'm very aware because, like, you know, I started renting my room out to some lodgers, yeah. And I knew when the energy of one of the persons wasn't right, and my home just felt not right at all, and I was smudging it every day as I do, and I knew he had to leave my home. You know, I just sensed it so strongly that I just didn't feel, I don't like the dark energy with him, you know, and because I'm very sensitive to energy, and I just love like-minded people, you know, who work with the energy of the true universe, you know.
Yes.
And I just thought he didn't, and I just couldn't have him in my home. And when I went to church that night, where we had mediumship, who came to me, and he said that your grandpa wanted him to leave your home, and I knew I would get confirmation that night, and I did. You know, so I was lucky to get him out of my home, which is quite hard in a way. But I felt a prisoner in my own home with his energy, and he controlled my energy, and I thought I needed so much help with my guides. But I was lucky because the love I feel for my guides in the universe, which is a straight connection, I was lucky enough to get them out, you know, so that was good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Derek, tell me, how did you find out about Project Oric, and what kinds of things are you and Penny going to be doing and working with them?
Well, originally, two of the members basically come to the forest. We met via somebody else. I asked them to come to the forest, and they'd done some EVP recording. And we sat at a bench, what we call Brenda's bench, in the middle of Rendlesham Forest. Brenda Butler was there, and Lee was there with another couple. Brett's niece was there. Basically, 4 of us sat around this picnic bench in the middle of Rendlesham Forest. Joe asked if there's any spirits and anybody would come forward and speak. Before he'd done that, he'd done a few test questions. Anyway, a spirit come through, and bear in mind, Joe didn't know when this voice came through. Me and Brenda immediately knew who it was. Joe didn't know, and Joe was doing the EVP record. Joe asked this spirit to come through, which the spirit did, answered a few questions, and he said, just to do a test question, he said, who's sitting opposite me? And the voice said, Brenda. American voice said, Brenda Butler. he said, "Who's sitting next to Brenda?" And the voice said, "Derek." And immediately we started thinking, it can't be, can it? And then Joe said, "Well, can you give us your name?" And as soon as the voice said Kevin, he knew exactly who it was. It was a guy called Kevin Darkstorm. And the answer was yes, it is. He died, I believe, a year or 2 years before Joe come to the forest. He comes through quite a lot now. He's come through to Penny, actually, a medium Penny, he comes through a lot. But this was the first time a friend of ours, who's an ex-serviceman who served at Bentwaters, died a few years back, came through. And what I heard was gobsmacked. I was gobsmacked. And so was Brent Butler. We sat there, we heard what was clear as a bell, what was said. There was a problem that he did record. Unfortunately, this is seems to be a bit of an ongoing problem. The people sitting around the table could hear exactly what was said, like I'm talking to you now, but it didn't record. So it's like they're talking in a different frequency, and always like taking a picture of, say, a ghost. It's not a solid object, so you're not going to get a solid picture,
Right.
But for those sitting around the table, can clearly hear what's said. When you try recording that, then sometimes you can only pick out certain words. And people say, "Oh, that can't be right, this can't be right." But when you hear how professional this group, Project Oric, are, and bear in mind, I've had 1 or 2 experiences with Joe Game in the forest. We've got pictures of us with giants, or one of the pictures of us with these giants. We've done EVP stuff. And I was so impressed with the way Joe handled things. And that was 3 years ago, something like that. And now he's been involved with this Project Oric, which is something I wanted to do, but it wasn't my forte to do it. But what I am trying to do is promote these people, because I think they've got a lot to offer. When I say go to a medium event, and there's a visiting medium gets up on stage and points out, say, you or me, and gives a message, that message means something to the person they're talking to, not the rest of the audience. What Project Oric are doing is getting information for the whole audience, not just odd people, one person here and there. It's stuff for everybody, and they're willing to share it. So basically, there's been a lot of synchronicities that have brought us together. One silly daft synchronicity, really, I didn't know this till the other day. For Project Oric, they meet once a week in a summer house. Well, Penny got a message to get a summer house via a medium stuff. So we've got a summer house in a garden, and it's just the link with the summer house. And it seems to be popping up quite a lot with various mediums, healers. It's a summer house in a garden. We've had so many different synchronicity things pop up. Hopefully, now as soon as Penny's just operating in Penny's summer house, we better bring more things through to one place. Where Project Oric operate from, they go same place, Project Oric, once a week, same place, same time. They've got it quite well sewn up. They're very professional in their approach, and that has got my attention. When you hear them talk, and you can ask them any questions whatsoever, and when you hear the question and answers, now, via different means, some of the questions they'd asked to Spirit, I'd also asked or got when I've been doing channeling with Brenda, just the 2 of us. We've done channeling and we've got all these question and answers things. Well, some of the answers that we've got are the same questions they've asked at Project Oric. 2 different places, same answers. So I'm thinking, well, how big can we take this? There's information here for the whole world, not just Rendlesham Forest or personal stuff. There is stuff right across the board, and that's why I'm really trying to push this group so that people can hear. If any of the listeners know anything about the skull experiment, or if they don't, I advise them to look up the skull experiment. This group are working along similar lines as the skull experiment, and they're very, very professional how they're doing it.
Well, I'll definitely put that link up after the show, because all of this is really tied in together. Ufology, the spirit world, the paranormal world. There are other dimensions. And sometimes, I'm sure that this has happened to you, Penny, sometimes you are able to see things that Derek might not be able to see, and vice versa. Has that ever happened?
Definitely. And that's where it's so lovely to be similar but so different, and it just blends together, and it's a really good balance of energy. It really works.
Have you ever seen orbs, Penny?
Yes, definitely, yeah. I go to a place at Long Melford, this hotel, and where this lady, a friend of mine, Marie, ran a fence and that, and it's a very haunted hotel, and she takes around all the bedroom, and all the orbs are just flying around the bedroom. Yeah, and when I take pictures, I can see orbs in the pictures and everything. Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting, because I myself have saw orbs in a room, yet there would be other people in the room who could not see them. And I think it's just like what you mentioned earlier. Some people, they have a higher vibrational frequency, and they are able to see inside these dimensions. It's like getting a glimpse, of another dimension or place. And one of the things that I can remember very clearly is I was in a room, and I kept on feeling like somebody just walked past me very quickly, to the point where I would turn to my side to look, because you just get a very, like, out of your peripheral vision, you see movement. You sense movement, and it makes the hairs stand up on my arm right now. I could sense people talking, standing around, watching. Sometimes I would see small flashes of light. And I later found out that many people see that before they'll get a glimpse from another dimension, or a lot of times it's an alien abduction. If they're going to be abducted, they'll see a small flash of light. And I've always felt that whatever these beings are, whether it be an extraterrestrial, an abduction, or sometimes spirit world, that when they break through to our dimension, that something shows up. That there's a spark of light, or the room changes, or there's heaviness in the air, but something shows up, because people like yourself and like Derek, myself, and other people, we notice a change in the atmosphere, don't we?
Definitely. I mean, because I was very lucky to sit in a circle where we just channeled aliens, and that is again from a higher frequency. They're really lovely light beings of aliens, and the lady who used to run it, she used to get channeled in trance, from the aliens, and that is so interesting, and I loved it. Really, really good.
Well, I have to ask you this, because I have had experience with the bad aliens, and my fiance, Derek Tyler, has had experiences with the bad ones that abducted him, did experiments on him, did, all the usual things that they do. They take samples from their body, they forcibly paralyze them, and they don't let them move. They can hardly scream. Aren't you afraid of ever channeling the bad ones?
No, I mean, that's exactly what happened to my friend Alicia. What you just described, exactly what happened to her, where she got paralysed, and she could feel the drill and everything, what they'd done to her. And I knew when I saw her the next day something happened, because her energy just totally was like shut down from her light being. And I said, something's happened to you, Alicia. You're not the same anymore. And so I gave her some really good smudging and really deep Reiki, and to help her clear that, because she just walking in a dark space, and I could see in her eyes, her soul was so like different, you know, and so we cleared it, and gradually she's got back to herself, and she come quite regularly for Reiki and smudging. So I like to use the white sage to really deep smudge, you know, and rub it, just get rid of that energy, because it goes really deep sometimes, doesn't it, when they get in there.
Mm-hmm.
And but like you know, when we used to sit in a circle like that, we always never felt no bad energy at all. We were so protected with the good energy, because, you know, we meditate with, you know, we really protect it with the White Brotherhood and the higher angels and that. And so the aliens were really like beings, but I'm so lucky in my life that I've never experienced seeing a dark energy in that way.
That's good.
I'm so lucky because, like, I mean, I'm so sensitive. You know, when I do my mediumship, when people come for readings, you know, I can. I'm very lucky who they bring to me, because I love bringing in, you know, their loved ones, you know, and sometimes people are in a dark space and they just need that comfort and that healing, don't they?
They do.
I smash myself so well, and I protect myself so well in that pyramid of triangle. I really, you know, protect myself so much. Yeah.
That's great. Derek, do you think there's bad aliens?
Yes, there's having had a run-in and been beaten up by something was non-human. Yes, there's obviously, I would say there's probably a balance. I wouldn't say all aliens are bad, but some as humans, really. I suppose you get good and bad, whether it be aliens, whether it be ETs. I mean, I suppose there's both. There's got to be, because there's got to be a.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know, when Derek's about, you know, there is bad and evil on Earth, isn't there? You know, when you
Yes.
compare what happened, they're evil, aren't they? They could be aliens. You know, you just don't know, because angels walk on this Earth, so do aliens.
You're
So,
right.
you know, yeah, and I believe that. You know, there's heaven on Earth and hell on Earth, isn't there? And
There
we create
is.
our own
There's
image.
good and bad humans.
Yeah.
There's some humans I would not leave a child alone in a room with them.
No.
They're so evil and mean and cruel. And there's good people, and you know, there's a mix of both, and I'm sure that's how it is with aliens. But my concept about aliens, if they have to abduct you and paralyze you, they're not your friend. And they do this to children as well. And of course, as everybody knows, our own government does this to its citizens as well, to study them and do experiments on. So
Definitely.
it's really
And that's
scary.
been going on for a long time, hasn't it? You know,
It has. It's frightening. It's really terrible. Well, we're coming up for our first break here, and we will be interviewing some members of Oric when we come back. And I just want to say it's so good to be among friends tonight. I get such lovely feelings from the both of you, your happiness, and it's just really great, because this is not a field for the faint of heart. You know, usually when you tell, if you're dating and you say, well, oh gee, I like aliens or UFOs, they go, what? So
really lovely talking to you, Deborah. Thank you for letting me on your show. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and we're going to come back. And we're back from our break, and we are here with our guest from the UK, Derek Savory, and his lovely girlfriend, Penny. And I'm going to let Derek introduce the next two guests that he has from Oric. Do you want to say a little bit about them, Derek?
Yes, I do. I've come across this group here in the UK. They're called Project Oric. They're telling their own story in a minute. And basically, they run along the same lines as the skull experiment. Now, I have spent time with these people, and two of them I've been to the Rendlesham Forest with. They've got some fantastic research that they've got, not just on Rendlesham Forest, but worldwide. They've got answers for, you name it, they've got answers for. And they're willing to share with the world what they've got. And these people are very professional at what they do. They really are. So I'll introduce you. First of all, I've got Lilly Marshall.
Hello, Lily.
Hello.
And also I've got Joe Game.
Welcome, Joe. Well, let me ask you first. Let me ask you, Joe. Tell me just a little bit about yourself, and then we will go to your lovely guest with you, and I'll get her to tell us about her.
Okay then, Deborah. Yes, so my name is Joe Game. I'm 49 years of age. I'm in Project Oric. I'm the EVP person mainly with Project Oric. I'm also a paranormal investigator for an organisation called Suffolk Paranormal Research, which I'm in with Lily as well, and with two other people, Lee Patston and Judith Sewell as well. And what happened was with Project Oric, we've been thinking about it for quite a long time, because we've been doing investigations for a good 25 years between us with private houses and businesses. And we felt really that we wanted to take things forward to a new level, in bringing forward evidence for the metaphysical that can be proved beyond doubt, that there is another side to life, and that's how it came about.
Lily, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi Deborah, my name is Lilly Marshall. I'm a mother of 5, and within Project Oric, I'm a paranormal investigator with another team called Batfree. And I'm also a parapsychologist and a pagan minister.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad to have both of you on my program. I think it's wonderful. We need more researchers in the field, especially women researchers. So I'm very excited to have Lily and to have Penny on my show. Joe, could you tell us a little bit briefly about the Skull Project that Derek has mentioned so that people will know what background of work we're talking about here?
Yes, the Skull Project ran in the 1990s, and it was a team of 4 people that met every week, we believe, and they meditated, they brought forward proof of the paranormal, they'd done lots of different things, different experiments, but they were guided by a spirit team in running these experiments, and that ran for quite a long time, and we're all very interested within the Skull Project, and we felt that from the experience we had, we could also do something like that and bring evidence forward, and bring it up in a really open way, that people can actually see what we're doing, and it can then be verified as well.
That's wonderful. I know I've read some about it, but that was a good little refresh for my memory. And I'll have to say that these fields are so important because, I do some paranormal research, but my main topic is alien abductees and things like that. One of the things that's everyone knows about the aliens is they're telepathic. They can read people's minds, and they rarely ever use a voice. They're always talking telepathically. And that's one thing that's very fascinating, is that after you're abducted, you tend to increase your psychic abilities. So Joe, tell me, what kind of experiences have you picked up on with alien extraterrestrials out there in your line of work?
Yes, with aliens, there's a story that happened to me back in 2008. I meditate and also a remote viewer as well. And I was using this software called Hemisync software, which is binaural beat software, where you play different tones in different ears, and those tones help you to get down into that state. I I was using it one summer's evening, and I'd ran the software, and I was just about to go to sleep. I was awake, and I wasn't half asleep, and suddenly there was a massive thump on my back, and for some reason I felt that I was tumbling backwards. I'd been sucked out of myself like I was in a big vacuum cleaner, and I found myself in this amazingly gold room, the most amazing gold place you could think of. And the thing is, I couldn't move. It was like my hands and my legs were tied behind me, or they were on some kind of rack from what I could feel. And I was aware of these small beings moving about within this doorway, but I couldn't focus on them, but I was aware that they were there. And I remember them doing something to me, but I cannot remember what they were doing. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what happened there. And next thing I knew, I was back on my bed. I was totally cold. I could hardly breathe. And it's the most odd experience I've ever had in my life. You know, I mean, I've had a lot of experiences in my life with the paranormal, but this was the most amazing thing. And the next day, I was having pains in certain parts of my body. It almost felt like I've brain had been stuck in a certain place. And it was very, very painful. And I'd even thought at that time of going up to the hospital because it was that painful. And that pain lasted a few days with me. And all I could think of was this massive rod being smashed up into me. And from then onwards, things sort of seemed to change. It was almost like this path was meant to cross in my life, you know. And I'd always been interested in paranormal. From then onwards, things seemed different, you know. It's like, it might sound odd, but it's almost, I felt like I'd been moved from one dimension to another. I really cannot explain what happened at that stage. And then my paths have been crossed with Suffolk Paranormal Research. I then became an investigator. And then we then met for Project Oric last year. And so the story's gone on from there.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Can you tell me, sometimes do you pick up energies that literally make the hair stand up on your head and your arms?
I do quite a lot, yes. I'm very empathic, so I tend to feel a lot with things. And people can walk past me, I can be in a supermarket, and I can feel their energy, you know, and I hate being in crowded places because there's so much energy rushing about. I can't wait to actually get out of those places.
Lily, let me ask you a question. How is it that you feel dark energy? Have you ever just been going about your daily activities and all of a sudden you feel like something different in your space? And do you always know what it is right away if it's something bad, or does it take you a while to discern exactly what kind of energy it is? Because this is one of the most fascinating fields anybody could ever be in. It is never boring, and it is always, in my mind, one of the most interesting subjects out there. Could you explain any experience you've had with that?
For me personally, I am very sensitive to different pressures in the atmosphere. I'm sensitive to EMF and positive and negative atmospheric pressures. And I've certainly had personal experiences, I would say, on a day-to-day basis where I have felt a negative energy or felt like I've been watched and it's taken me off guard or made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up and haven't been able to explain it. And I think for me that's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, which is where my interest in the paranormal came from.
Have you ever felt, Lily, that people that came into your life, I know sometimes people just seem, you can look at them and you just see so much chaos or feel chaotic energy. Do people have these entities sometimes attached to their aura or their physical bodies and carry them around for a long time?
I definitely feel that, not only about people but places. I've been into a room and automatically felt a negative energy, and it's made me feel very uncomfortable to the point of not being able to stay in a room or a house or even an outside open place. But with attachments to people, I have not only felt negative energies from people, but been automatically positively drawn towards people as well.
That's exactly how I felt sometimes towards people. It's just like, I can't explain it, except it feels just like you're home with them. Does that make any sense?
Definitely, yeah, I feel exactly the same.
Wow. Joe, let me ask you, one of the things that I found out being empathic is that you have to protect yourself sometimes from energies that are really powerful and are strong. Have you ever come across a time in your life where you felt like this powerful force was trying to invade your life? And if you did, how did you protect yourself from it? What can you do to keep them out of your space, so to speak?
Yeah, very much so, Deborah. I had an incident back in 1989 where I read in the local paper that a local girl had been killed in a car crash. And all of a sudden, I could feel her life, all the things about her life, her regrets at this life and the life she led and everything about it. And this went on for months and months. It's almost like that spirit wanted to carry on as they were. And I could not shake this heavy feeling. And it's really odd because if it happens to you, you can't, it's very hard to actually deal with. The way I found that I dealt with it was I meditated a lot and asked for my spirit guides to come and help the spirit over. And eventually, after a lot of asking, eventually she went. But I had to sort of tell her, look, you are where you are. It was meant to be. You have to accept where you are and move on. You cannot stay here. And that was really my big start in the paranormal, Deborah.
Wow. Well, as you were speaking, I could feel that sadness that you encountered. She was just very sad. She was happy in her life, and she had a lot of regrets that I couldn't stay. I mean, I could feel like I had my hair standing up on my body, when you were speaking about that. I feel like these people, sometimes it's a loved one. A lot of times it's a loved one. They have unfinished business, and they are glad to have us humans that are left on the earth to pass along their message. Is that how you feel?
I certainly felt that was the case. Yeah, there was some kind of message there. I think part of the message from Spirit for me was to actually wake me up in a spiritual way, to actually do something about this, because all my life I'd had an interest in the paranormal. The very earliest books I read as a small child were paranormal books. I'd always sort of gravitate towards them on the bookshelf. And really, I think that was the big awakening. Although obviously there was a spiritual side for that spirit as well to deal with. But for me, it did wake me up.
Well, that's fascinating. I totally believe in it. My ex-husband died of cancer, and it was a few months after he passed away. I had a dream, and my dream was that he opened a door and he pointed to a dresser, and he wanted me to open that drawer, so I did. And he took his face and looked at me and got closer and looked down in the drawer, and there was film, camera film, in that drawer. And he smiled at me, and he backed out. And so I told my daughter, I said, I had the weirdest dream about your father. I dreamed that he opened a drawer and pointed at some film. And I don't know why I would dream about that. And she went, oh, Mama. She said, I totally forgot. I have a whole drawer of film I've took for several years. And I was just upset the other day because I didn't have a lot of pictures of me and my dad together as I was older. She said, I bet there are images on some of those rolls of film. The first roll of film she sent off had a picture of her and her dad hugging each other. There was no way I could have known that. No way. And another time, one more communication I got from him. is my daughter took his death very, very hard, and this was just a couple of weeks after he passed away. And in the dream, he came to me and he mentioned the name of a song, and it was about a rainbow. And he told me, and he said, listen to this song. Tell her to listen to this song. So I called my daughter up and I said, I had another weird dream, and it was about your dad. Can you tell me if there was some kind of song or something that had something to do with a rainbow that he liked? And she said, Mom, that was his favorite song, A Kiss at the End of the Rainbow. And she said, that's his favorite song. I don't know if you guys can feel that energy, but I can still feel it right now. And that song was his favorite song, and he always said that it reminded him of her, of Misty. And so she said, I'd forgotten all about that, Mom. And so she went and played that song. Well, I knew nothing at all about that. I didn't know anything. We had been, separated the last year that he died. I knew nothing at all about his likes, his songs, or any of that stuff. And that is definite proof to me that there is communication from the other side. And that made my daughter feel so comforted. And, we can use these things for good. It's how we choose to use the information, Let me ask you, Lily, what kinds of things do people come to you and want to know about their loved ones? Is it just the normal stuff about how they are, or do they have specific questions that they want to know about?
Well, with Project Oric, we invite people to give us questions to ask their loved ones and see if we can make contact with loved ones that have passed. And we have such an array of questions come through. You would think that they were the normal things about how much they love them and miss them and hope that they are well on the other side. But we have questions such as, do you know where I lost my car? And we've actually had, Joe had a personal experience where he couldn't find something, and he turned his son's room upside down looking for something, and they could not find it, and they asked Spirit where it was, and they got a very clear message that it was next to the bin, and they thought that couldn't be where the item was because they'd looked there, and they went back and looked, and there it was next to the bin.
Wow.
So it is funny the different questions that we do have put forward to Spirit, and no matter what the question, we have a plethora of answers which seem to be bang on the mark, completely accurate, and ones that we can't explain with direct science.
Wow, that is totally amazing, and I have heard other stories as well. Joe, have you ever been contacted by law enforcement, or do you know people in the business that law enforcement use them to find their loved ones, or to find answers to murders or different things like that they couldn't find by other ordinary means?
I have been approached by someone who's asked me to work on a recent case to find them about that at the moment. There's certain implications with that and things that need to be done. But yes, I mean, there's been lots of things that have happened, but that is the thing that's the recent thing, I guess.
Well, that's fascinating, and I know they do use that. They have used that, a lot in trying to find answers for murders when they can't seem to find anything else. Now, I know that here in the United States, that back in years past, that our government used remote viewing, and they used that in their military to find out things about our enemies and information. They spent millions of dollars on the research, and they found out that it works. It truly works. Do you know anything at all about the UK, if they have ever used remote viewers in projects or used them to get information that they otherwise would not have access to?
It wouldn't surprise me at all, Deborah. With part of my story, in 1999, I had a bad car accident myself, and I was injured and I was recovering at home. And I felt a need, I don't know where it came from, but to contact a past life regressionist to find out a little bit more about where I'd come from, about my background. And I met this lady I was recommended, and every time we had an appointment, something would happen. I didn't meet her, or she couldn't meet her, or something like that would happen. And eventually, she said to me, well, you're not meant to know about your past life. So she passed me on to a mediumship group who lived locally near me, and I joined this mediumship group. And within this local group, I found I was quite good at remote viewing. And we used to practice this, and every week we would sort of go through various routines and things. And an odd thing that happened was, one week we came out of this session, and there were clearly these government people parked out in a trailer, taking these photographs of us. And for a few weeks afterwards, I was followed with this really weird-looking car, this kind of grey pickup truck thing was following us. And when you're being followed. And I'm pretty sure there's people out there who keep tabs on these things, and they are watching us.
Well, I think you're right, and they have long been doing research, from as long as I can remember in our history about using remote viewers. And I know Uri Geller. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He was a very famous psychic here in the United States. They used him. They used several others in research projects to test and to see if it was a real thing or not. And they actually awarded different colleges money for research projects. Nobody else knew that it was the U.S. doing that, but that's how they found out the names of other people who could do this. And I think probably the fascination for them is that the aliens could do it. Tell me, Joe, what is your experience with aliens? Have you ever spoke with other people who were abducted and had a lot of abduction events that wanted to ask you questions about what was happening to them?
There's been various people, yes. I'm quite active online with various groups about alien abductions, because it seems to have been a big feature in my life ever since I was small, and a lot of my experiences seem to be like alien related and things of that kind of genre. With the Gold Room experience, I struggled really to make sense of it for a long time, and it just did not make any sense in my mind of what happened. Learned through meditation and EVP and other forms. I think it's an astral abduction that I suffered at that time. It's just very, very strange indeed.
Well, I've had an astral abduction attempt, and it is a frightening experience. It's very rarely that you can get out of it, but I had already, my fiance had already told me to prepare for this, and so we had a plan worked out. But it is probably one of the most terrifying experiences a human being can experience, because on one level you're aware, you talked about you felt like you were sucked out like a vacuum out of a room. That's what I felt. You can feel the evil if it's someone bad, but unless you can get your body to move or make a sound, it's almost impossible to get out of it. Have you ever been able to stop an astral abduction or known someone that was able to? And after you answer, I'll get Lily to answer.
Yeah, I've had lots of attempts where I've tried to have out-of-body experiences. I could feel this state coming on again. And the only way I could do it was to really sort of almost hit myself across the face to wake up, stop what you're doing, stop. Things don't feel right here. There's been lots of occasions as well where I've woken up with like clothing on backwards and found parts of the house. you just know in your mind that something's going on that you cannot remember.
Can you see anything when this is happening? I know I just could see very vaguely something was in front of me. There was like a shadow darkness beside of my bed, and I could feel I was being drawn out because that entity was in the room. So could you see anything, or were your eyes closed, or do you remember?
I remember shadow figures moving around very quickly in the room, but once you've sensed the shadow figures, there's no chance to stop it. I mean, they're there so quickly, almost in the blink of an eye. You know, once it's there, they've got you, I think the chances maybe of stopping it are probably pretty slim.
It is. The only way I was able to get out of it, and you know, you can't just come out and scream, but I was able to make a moan. I very softly, you know, I just went like that. My vocal cords were paralyzed. That's all I could do was make a hum sound. And my fiance, he knew the protocol, and he grabbed me and shook me and got me out of it. And that is the only way I was able to keep that from happening. And I have kept that from happening to him by doing the same thing. Lily, have you had any experiences with astral abduction?
I haven't personally had any experiences with astral abduction. In fact, the only personal experiences I've had with ETs was when I was doing a research and investigation evening at Rendlesham Forest, and I was there with Joe, Lee, another member of Oric, and also my husband. And we were there for roughly 5 hours, and we got some clear evidence of responses from either spirit or ETs. And my personal experience with that event was the whole time I felt that we were the ones being watched, rather than us doing the investigation and research on them. I almost felt like we were the ones that were being experimented and researched and watched.
Wow, that's interesting. I do think they pick up on that. I think because, you know, people that are empathic, our vibrational frequencies are higher, and it's like it almost makes us more visible to them. And that certainly seems to intrigue them, you know, quite a bit. So what do you do if you feel like there's something negative and you need to shield or protect yourself? I know there's other mediums out there or people that are just coming into the reality that, hey, there's something different about them and they don't know what it is. Is there something that you can do, Lily, to protect yourself from being invaded by what you feel could be a negative force?
Whenever we are going to work with the paranormal or do any kind of research or investigation, either by myself or with the team, we always start with a meditation, and we also do a circle where we connect with our spirit guides, and we always try and work within the light to keep ourselves protected. And that's something that every night before I go to sleep, I make sure that I am in a meditative state. I make sure that I am protected, and I picture myself within the light, and I feel that that has kept me protected and safe and away from any dark energies from all the work that I've done with the paranormal and in my day-to-day life.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Joe, I want to ask you about the tools that you use as a researcher. If you could go over 3 or 4 of the main tools or pieces of equipment that you use. And after that, I would love for you to tell me about some of the questions that you asked and you got answers back on one of your pieces of equipment. I would like you to speak a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, in our bag of tools, we've got a lot of stuff between us. A few of the things we use are things like EMF meters, and these measure the magnetic fields around us, and it's thought that spirits do to give off EMF. And we've actually used these various meters to actually ask questions, so we can say, if you're here, you make the meter go up, and you've got like yes responses to that. So we'd ask like yes/no questions, a bit like you would on a Ouija board, I suppose, in a way, with that. And that's been fairly useful in the past with talking to spirits. A big part of it is a spirit box, because I'm the EVP person, so we use that spirit box, various devices out there called Echo Box as well, which works in a similar way that's very effective at talking to spirits. We use a lot of cameras as well. We've got infrared and ultraviolet cameras that can pick up the unseen spectrums on that, because as you probably know, we can only see a very small spectrum of light as well. What else do we use, Lily? There's lots of different things, isn't there?
Obviously the two, which is
K2,
EMF reader.
EMF, yeah.
And a part of the very basic tool is a good old voice recorder.
Yeah. We record absolutely everything all the time. The place where we meet for Project Oric, this is some house. It's a massive summer house. It's got a bar in there. It's got a disco. It's got 5 settees in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we're able to stretch out and lay down to meditate every time we go there every week. And that place is covered by cameras all the time, CCTV, because you just never know what you're going to pick up. So the cameras are a very big part of what we actually do. In regards to questions we ask, we first of all ask if the spirit's there. If you come through and just say hello, and on the EVP side, with the spirit box of the example, you'll hear there's hello come through. We ask if the spirit's here, why are you here? What can we do to help you? What has brought you here? We ask a lot of test questions as well, because we like to test equipment, just to sort of show that this isn't fake what we do, this is real, and it's open and transparent as well.
What's the most interesting answer you've got from a question?
Well, with the spirit box, Echo Box thing, you'll get a lot of swearing sometimes. To me, it's good evidence in itself, because on normal radio you wouldn't get told to go away and not so polite terms.
We do get told off by spirits.
We do.
So they're cranky just like they are in their human form, huh?
They are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they can see what we're doing, and I mean, the one recent episode on Project Oric, we're recording with an open mic, and I walked across the floor and just made several sort of noises as I was walking across the floor with my mouth, and EVP came back was, "Be serious, grow up." So
Wow.
they're watching and they know what we're doing.
Well, let me ask, both of you can answer, or, either one that wants to. Do they talk about their environment, where they're at, like what they can do or what they can see, or, what do they do when they're hanging out on the other side? Either one of you can answer that.
They do a lot, yes. I mean, we ask lots and lots of questions. One thing we have set up is EVP Live. So we're sharing with the public so that they can either read it or hear it. With themselves, they say things like it's lovely where they are, they're at leisure, they don't have to, they don't want to do. There are certain limits, though, places they can go from what we've found out. But they can do leisure things, like they can do art if they wish to. They don't have to reincarnate. That seems to be an option to them. But there's a higher council that they can go to. There's lots of different things that they describe. I mean, that sometimes they'll describe it as being vast, such a big place. I've asked them, well, can that place be measured? No.
Wow. Well, I would like to ask this. I had a near-death experience, and when I was on the other side, I couldn't see my hands or my body or anything. Can they see themselves? Can they see what each other looks like on the other side?
Yes, they said that they look like brilliant points of light. That's what they've said on there, and that they live in clusters. So by that, what I tend to mean is that they may have like a family group that they belong to, not like a family as we would know it, but a spiritual family where there's beings that vibrate on the same frequency as themselves, that they're naturally attuned to. So when you go home to spirits, you recognise this place, and you go to this actual group. There's various groups, lots of different groups. There obviously probably billions of them, but that's what they describe.
Gosh, I've never heard that before. That's really fascinating. Lily, has there been a famous entity or ghost that you have spoke to that I might recognize?
Within Project Oric, we have had spirits come through, and we've been able to trace their names with records. I know that some of the other team members have had some very famous spirits come forward. Unfortunately, I haven't had any myself, but I know that they have had Elvis.
Wow.
Which I'm sure you've heard of.
Yes, of course. Everybody's heard of Elvis. That's really cool. I always think it's fascinating when, famous personalities come through. I have another question. Well, actually, it's a request, and I would like to see if you guys would be interested in it. This is an experiment that the next time when you get together that you might could try, because I found out inadvertently that it worked, but I don't know how. I was interviewing a group of CE5 people, which is human-initiated extraterrestrial contact, and there were mediums within the group. And this is when I was first learning that I was a little bit different. And, sometimes you do things and you don't know why, but you find out later. So before the interview, I had collected stones. I have a fascination with stones. And I had a small piece of rose quartz rock and a piece of emerald amethyst. Before the show, for some reason, I thought, man, I need to go get those stones. And so I went and got the stones. Well, while I was doing the interview, I had both of those stones in my hands, one in each hand. And while they were speaking and talking about their experiences, I had my eyes closed and I was sort of meditating, on what they talked about. They were, they camped in a burial ground, an Indian burial ground, and they had some ET experiences there. And some had shown up when they meditated. I thought, wow, that's really fascinating. After the show was done, for some weird reason at the time, I laid those stones down. I went and got my camera, and I started taking pictures, maybe about 5 or 6 inches away from each one of them, and turned them around from all sides taking pictures. And I think I've told Derek Savory about this. So I thought, well, that's strange. Why did you do that, Deborah? And I forgot about it. Well, the next day I was taking other pictures, and I just happened to come across the pictures of the stones. And one of them I thought, what is that? Something looks like an image or something. So I kept on enlarging and enlarging several times. And on one of the stones there were 2 images that were totally 100% real. Had no idea that there was anything on them. I think they transpired while I was doing the show. I think it was a communication. There was an image of an alien, a ghost-looking alien with 2 large eyes. It looked just like sort of Casper, like the ghost, but the eyes were sort of alien. And the other image was of a Native American profile with a headdress on. And I thought, this could not have happened. I thought, no, this could not have happened. First of all, you could not see these images with the human eye. Looking at the stones, you could not see it. The only way you could see it was to keep on enlarging the picture. The chances of those 2 images materializing on those rocks were about 1,000,000 to 1 that it would be a Native American and that it would be a ET-like ghost image, because those are the 2 things that they told me about. So the next time that you do a meeting, or when you're trying to do your work, maybe perhaps if you could pick up a quartz, it was just a regular quartz rock, just a small one. It wasn't even as big. It was probably twice the size of a 50-cent piece, and hold it in your hand. And then afterwards, take some photographs and see if anything comes up, if anything is channeled or comes through on those rocks, because I later found out that quartz is used in computers. It is used in computers, and that is part of how we get our information. So there is a science behind this. So I would be interested if people such as yourselves, who are highly intuitive and empathic, if the same thing might work with you when you do an interview or you talk with someone or you go into a space. And if you do that and something comes up, I would love to have you guys on another show. All of you, Derek and his wonderful fiance, and you, Joe, and Lily. And we would talk about that, because that's something that can't be set up. If it happens, it's real, because those things just don't show up random on a stone.
Yeah, but the thing that I find most interesting about your story is, obviously, you said that you had the rose quartz and the amethyst in your hands whilst you were meditating at the beginning of your session.
Yes.
And those are the stones that you're told to work with when doing astral projection.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, astral projection is one of my first interests in the paranormal, and also working with crystals. And I was about 11 years old when I first read about astral projection and experimented with it myself. And it was an amethyst and rose quartz I was told to hold in each hand and practice meditating to experiment with astral projection.
Well, I knew that we all connected today for a reason, because just as you were speaking, I'm getting the recognition in my body that what you were saying is very true and is real. And there is a lot of reason to continue to do research in this, because I think that we'll find answers. So if you guys would like to do that, I think that would be great. And, just let me know in a few weeks or a few months if you get anything from that. Because none of us has all the answers. We are all a piece of the puzzle. And I just want to say, I'm just so impressed with both of you. You just have just a wonderful spirit around you to help people and to bring answers. Joe, can I ask you, what are your future goals for Oric, and what is it that you hope to accomplish?
What we want to do is to bring as much proof as we can of the metaphysics, so that it can then be shared with the public, take away, so your life carries on. And also, in the day, is just to have a record of everything that we've actually done, just to show this is what you can do. You concentrate your efforts with spirit and to work as hard as you can. And you'll be surprised at what you can achieve at the end of the day.
That is beautiful. I just want to commend you for saying that. As human beings on this planet, we have to learn how to work together. There's no room for ego. I come across that quite a lot in the UFO field, researchers trying to take credit for everything they learn about extraterrestrials, and they don't want you to talk about it, and they're very territorial. It belongs to all of us as human beings. We are all part of the same thing. We are all the same. We are all energy. And bringing these things out to light can only help humanity. How can people get in touch with you, Joe? And can you tell people, do you have a website or anything, or a group?
Yeah, so at the minute we're on Facebook. So if you look for Project Oric on Facebook, you'll find our Facebook group. And we're going to be launching a website in the next few weeks that will show all of the evidence we've actually collected over the year we've been doing the project, because there's lots of different things we've been doing. We've been doing things like table turning sessions, Ouija boards, everything you can name it we've been doing and collecting data for. So we're on our website as well, where people can actually hear and read what we're doing. Also, we have like a weekly blog that we're hoping to do as well with our experiences as well. But that'll be up and running, and that'll be announced on Facebook in the next few weeks.
Well, that's wonderful. I definitely want to be a part of your group, so please include me in because I think this is so fascinating. Lily, can you tell us how people can contact you, and do you have a website or a place where people can come and hang out with you online?
I have my personal Facebook account, and I'm also part of the Project Oric Facebook group, and I will be on the website, which will be, as Joe said, launched in the next couple of weeks. And also mine and my husband's Paranormal Investigation team have a Facebook group called Paranormal Battery.
Oh, that's great. Joe, are there other members of Oric that you would like to mention?
Yes, certainly. So there's obviously myself and Lily today. There's Lee Patston and Judith Sewell as well. So there's 4 of us in the team.
Oh, that's great. Well, when we publish this, I will be sure that I put up all those websites and information because things like this really excite me. I have such a good feel about Project Oric, and I think that it will be at the forefront of research in this area, and I wish you all nothing but the best. I just want to thank you for joining in and being a guest on my show today. I really appreciate it. A pleasure to speak with you and Lily as well. And that wild man friend of yours, Paul Sinclair, him too. And Derek, let me tell you, that just really touched my heart. I love people that don't beat around the bush. You just come out and said, she's the love of my life. You know what? You are just an awesome guy. We need more guys like you in this world.
Thank you, Deborah, for giving us a chance and giving Project Oric a chance on your show, because their research, I think, is the way forward.
Thank you, Derek, Savory and Penny and Joe, Lily, my wonderful guests from Project Oric, and I'm going to end the show and play some of the EVP recordings from Project Oric, playing just a little bit of spooky stuff, getting ready for Halloween. This is Deborah Jane East and Notes from the Underground.
Will there be another world war? Does the echo help you? Our loved ones in spirit waiting for us when we pass. Has our government met with ETs? Is there a link between what occurred at Talk, time travel experiments, and what happened with the Rendlesham Forest UFO in 1980? Does the echo help you?
Thank you for listening to Notes from the Underground with your host, Deborah Jane East. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook.